Well, welcome out there once again to my program. Always a pleasure to be here. This is the panel show. I have the infamous Rousers of Fall River, the political Rousers. Well, you might say, you know, they bring up the truth, they bring out the facts, and the city is tired of that recently. Well, the thing is, we've got to know what's going on. And sometimes, even if you pay attention and you watch and listen and you try to get involved, it's confusing. We've got the school committee on one side, city council on the other side. In between, we have the city administration, and they talk about things like line items, net school spending. These terms we never grew up with, some of us. We don't even understand what they mean. They have their own definitions. They use these words so much, a definition grows on them. But my panel is going to explain some of these things that are happening in the city of Fall River, especially last night at the city council meeting. If you watched that meeting, it was very, very, well, it was very interesting to say the least. It's better than theater. And, well, you're supposed to learn something, and there's supposed to be progress. However, last night, I think people were more confused, or just as confused, and really there was no progress. So, CJ, welcome once again. Glad that you could stop by.
Well, you know, the Holy Trinity wouldn't be the unholy Trinity if we didn't make the appearance.
Yeah,
so, because that's what we are classified as, the unholy Trinity.
Unholy Trinity.
Always a pleasure.
Not the political rousers of Fall River. Dan,
Richard, how you doing?
you were at the meeting last night?
Oh, in more ways than one.
Come on, tell us what happened last night. Tell us just one thing at least that you found to be extremely interesting.
The highlight of the night came at about 11:30 to 11:45.
That late.
When Dan Rigo challenged the administration, and I'm paraphrasing the quote, looked directly at the mayor and said, "Mr. Mayor, you are ultimately and personally responsible for the financial disaster of this city."
Now, what did he base that on, CJ?
Just look at the budget. Really, look at the budget. When you have the city administrator sitting here, and you have a city councilor who has not done anything right since he's taken office, and by the way, he took office, he wasn't elected to office, he was appointed. He makes a motion to accept the budget as is with the shortfalls, and we'll fill in the gaps later. That's illegal. You cannot have a budget approved and passed with a built-in shortfall, with a built-in deficit. And this guy said, "Oh, we'll just take care of it." And Kathy Ann Viveris is just shaking her head there like this.
Saying no?
Saying no, because she had already said, the numbers we've presented aren't accurate.
Oh. So
we could have $1 million shortfall in the insurance fund, which Chip on his investigations found it's higher than that. We could have $1 million shortfall in pay-as-you-throw, and we already have a shortfall in the school department, which they just found out from DESE that it's actually $100.4 million they need, and they're trying to approve 97.
Bob, you can't pass a budget with gaps and backfill later?
Well, apparently, Councilor Correa isn't aware that only the federal government can deficit spend.
Because they had the printing press.
Yeah, to make a motion like that shows that obviously he doesn't have any conception of what the city is responsible to do fiscally, and he doesn't belong in that seat. And it's not the first time Mr. Correa has said and done things that are totally ridiculous, because believe it, the last meeting he said that you can debate even though the parliamentary procedure that's followed by the council Cushing's was being violated. He doesn't realize that after a motion is made and after there's a vote being taken, you can't reopen it for discussion or discuss. He doesn't know priorities of motions. He doesn't know, basically, I guess he started off pretty well because he overspent in campaign contributions. So far, he's got a perfect track record. He hasn't abided by the law once since he's been in office.
Now, he was chastised, if I'm correct, Dan, he was chastised about his committee that he
Well,
chairs.
that's correct, because Monday night at the...
Something about the agenda, he said it wasn't on the agenda, so he wasn't going to take it up?
Monday night at the ordinance meeting, President Joe Camara had requested the ordinance committee get information regarding what would be the most feasible increase to have. They're both taxes, but either a sewer increase or a stormwater. And Jazel Correa, when one of the members, and I forget who, had brought up the fact that President Camara wanted it discussed, he said, absolutely not, it's not on the agenda. And all during the cantankerous discussion between Ray Mitchell and Leo Pelletier about that, last night I was mimicking in the crowd because it seems like the committee process at the city council now is just like the school committee. We can't discuss things that aren't on the agenda, but I will say this, Mr. Correa, Councilor Correa has a lot of guts to defy the president. I mean, whether you like Joe, whether you agree with him or not, the fact is he's the duly elected president, and for him to say that the president can't discuss something for an unelected councilor, that takes guts.
Well, was it defiance or was it just a mistaken procedure?
Look, I think it was defiance because for months, for as long as I can remember, the city council has always had the right to discuss things in an informational fashion that aren't on the agenda.
Well, Councilor Correa, he voted for Joe Camara to be
Of course.
president. Do you think there's a little falling out now between the two?
Look, I don't think Jazel Correa understands parliamentary procedure. He certainly doesn't know what a bond is and how they operate. Look, he's an appointed, unelected councilor who got there because Kathy Ann Viveris became the administrator, and he's just a kid out late in a fancy suit.
That's about it. And the worst part about it is, at that ordinance meeting, when they were discussing the water and sewer fees, they kept the sewer fee at $4.19 per CCF, okay? And they wanted to increase the water fee by 5 cents. And the infamous Pat Casey comes out and says, oh, but wouldn't more money help you out? Shouldn't we consider a dime? How much more would make it work for you? Maybe 60 cents? So she's more than willing to spend the taxpayers' money.
Whatever is needed.
Whatever you need.
We got a blank check, it's only the taxpayers,
Is
don't
this a
worry
way
about
of
it.
filling in the gaps as
Well,
things
yeah,
go
just,
along?
you know, I mean, I think the attitude of the people who are aligned with the mayor have the same attitude that the mayor has. It's like, why are we in this fiscal crunch?
Let's just pass the budget and fill in the gaps.
Negotiated pay raises, created jobs, gave all kinds of people raises, and we wonder why we run out of money. So what's their answer? Just what Pat Casey does. Go to the taxpayer and fleece them some more. And the fact is that we don't have people here that can afford it. It seems that about half of that council doesn't even know what city they live in. Because I watch some of these people walk back to their Mercedeses and drive over to Providence for dinner at the Capitol Grill, and I wonder if they have any conception. I think they should be made to live in a 3-decker, in Corky Row for about 6 months, and maybe they'll grasp the gravity of this situation.
What's happened with the illegal tax? The rainwater tax was proclaimed to be illegal. The mayor campaigned, and he said when he got into office, he would repeal that tax. It's illegal. Dan, that tax is still...
I'll tell you what's happened with it, Richard. It's like any fee, any tax, any kind of surcharge that comes in by government. Once you see it, it never goes away. Taxes never go down, they increase, okay? And the bottom line is, and Kathy Ann Viveris admitted this when she was a city councilor and when she was a mayoral candidate. Approximately that brings in $5 million to the budget annually. And if they repeal it, where's the $5 million coming from?
So even though it at one time was considered illegal,
Well, but that was never
That's
proven.
okay then,
That
today.
was never proven by a court.
Well, the mayor, the mayor decided it was illegal and he ran on it. He's an attorney. But then I guess in the process, he figured out that he needed the money.
And his
he has-
corporation counsel
he has-
mentioned that a number of times.
He has
during-
waved his wand and now it's legal.
Now
The-
it's
you know,
legal.
he has spoken from the Mount, the Sermon on the Mount. He said, instead of changing, getting more bread and changing water to wine, we just change illegal taxes to legal taxes.
And the funny thing is, and then you got to look at your water bill to see this, if you're really paying attention, you see the line item for the CSO fee, the waste, the sewer fee, or whatever they
that
want to call
big
it.
tunnel project.
Okay,
Stormwater
yeah,
fee.
Combined
the
sewer overflow.
stormwater fee, okay?
Combined
And then
sewer
above that, a new fee we see there, which Terry Sullivan said is not a new fee,
Base meter?
the base meter fee. That was not a new fee because that had always been included in the water fee price.
But never,
okay?
never reflected in the
Never
bill.
was-
But was
listed
never
on the
reflected
bill.
on the bill, but now it's reflected on the bill and the water fee price is still the same.
And we have different fees depending on the size
Size
of the
of your meter.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, it's semantics when they say water and sewer have not been raised in the last number of years, as they claim.
Now,
Voodoo
we get this
economics.
pay-as-you-throw. It seems like the mayor is, you might say, banking on pay-as-you-throw because that money that's coming in regards to pay-as-you-throw, which he plans to implement in July, 1st of
August
July.
1st.
Oh, August 1st, okay. Now, has that been calculated into the budget?
Yes,
All right, so his budget proposal includes that pay-as-you-throw
$3.5 million.
revenue.
And it's probably an overcalculation.
Now, he's saying to the city council that they don't have to vote on that. Am I
He's
correct?
saying he has the authority to implement it unilaterally.
Now, is that,
So I'm not sure whether he does or not.
That is accurate. The mayor does have the unilateral control over waste management. The thing
now,
that
when
he
you say,
doesn't have
when you
the
say he has
control,
absolute control, is that based on
that's based on
statute?
that's based on state law, okay? And Chipper and I both looked that over. And what happens is, though, which was something that he hoped nobody would see, I'm assuming.
You saw
or maybe he knew, but we saw it.
A
is
little, a couple of lines.
That's
there.
right. It's, it says very clearly that
Gotta
that
go to sanitation.
it's got to go only for sanitation,
solid
waste
waste.
management, which means it has to go in to an enterprise account. And
When
the
you say
city council-
enterprise account, you mean like a special account?
well, it means that the account has to fund that department solely
Yeah,
with
what's
no
it-
tax dollars.
I know you use the word, they use the word enterprise,
Right.
kind of a fancy word. You know, we probably would have just said a special account
Mm-hmm.
years ago, but they come out with this convoluted language that people have difficulty understanding.
But the
So,
interesting part
you'll go
is-
into a special account.
Right.
And that money in that account, as you pointed out, you gave me the law, can only be used for solid waste management, disposal, whatever that is. So, he cannot take any of the money and put it elsewhere,
Correct.
as we might say,
Well, he's
gap
not supposed
filler.
to. Let's put it that way.
Oh, right.
He's not supposed to.
Right.
But if you look at the, if you
So
look
if
at,
someone blinks,
well, you look at the, the organization of the Department of Community Maintenance now. They do many other things besides solid waste. They are doing a lot of things. And we have had historically a major problem in this city of commingling of funds whenever they get an opportunity to do that. And in reality, if he was going to comply with this law, he would have to separate the waste management part of the DCM into a separate entity. And that would be the only way to assure that money is being spent within the parameters of the law.
well, who's gonna watch this? We have an auditor. What does he watch? What is
The
he-
auditor?
What does he watch? He watches the checkbook, because as he says, I just write the checks.
He
I
just-
just sign the checks.
He just signs the check.
They just sign the checks.
So-
And the treasurer, he goes, I'll have to look that up and get back to you.
So, in other words, you get people out there and they're saying, look, we're gonna have to pay as you throw. It's gonna cost us a few extra dollars. Some people don't like it, some people are not even sure what it's all about. But, listening to what you're saying, they can understand now that that money that's collected is supposed to go into a special fund. I guess the next question people out there are gonna be asking is, who's going to watch that fund? does the mayor have authority to take money from that fund? Let's say he
No.
wants it.
Only the council can transfer revenue between accounts.
All right, I guess the follow-up question is this. Based on state law, do they have any authority? Because we know state law trumps city ordinances or city council resolutions, et cetera. So if the state law says, you collect this money, you put it into a special account, that money is only used for certain things, is that it?
The enterprise account was set up under Mayor Bob Correa. He had considered this as a potential source of revenue for waste management when he foresaw that the dump was going to close. Now, according to the way enterprise accounts are set up, according to the law, the money that comes in to the enterprise account must go in and be used solely for the exclusive use of the need of the account. In other words, solid waste management. Anything that's over and above that cost can go into a reserve account. And the reserve accounts is something that Terry Sullivan talks about all the time when he's talking about we've used the reserve accounts to keep the water fees down.
Can he does he, by law, does he have to replenish the reserve account?
No.
No.
All right, so whatever is in the so-called reserve account is, they like to use the term,
Basically, free money for them to transfer whatever they want in between
so it's
accounts.
extra money.
Yeah,
you can
it's all
transfer.
tax dollars, folks, but they look at it as a free commingling pot of money.
All right, does the city council have any, if
Absolutely.
you know, any control over that?
The city council has the sole exclusive authority to transfer money.
They do.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And
So-
they have the exclusive authority to set the bagging fees.
You think he's going to use this account, the solid waste account, as a gap filler? So if there's problems elsewhere, he takes money out of this account? Is that what this budget?
Well, if we look at
When it-
history,
When they talk about this budget, you think there's contemplation there that account is going to be used, in other words, somewhere else in the budget?
well, absolutely. If you look at past history, we can go back and look at all the times they've
So he
commingled money.
needs pay-as-you-throw.
Well,
He needs it. There's
In other
no
words,
question.
without pay-as-you-throw.
you know, we got to clarify something else, Richard.
Well, without pay-as-you-throw, this budget is really out of whack.
I think it's out of
It's out of
whack
whack
regardless.
anyway.
No, but I mean, even more so.
But, you know, the public has to realize, we have pay-as-you-throw, we're going to get a tax increase,
2.5, right?
right? Maximum within 2.5, we're going to get a water rate increase. Okay, so every bill you get from the city of Fall River will be increased. So when they say your tax rate has gone up, let's face it, pay-as-you-throw is a hidden tax. They can say whatever they want, they can call it whatever they want. It's a tax.
It's money you're gonna have to pay.
It's money you have to pay. So we pay our taxes to get our trash picked up, then we're paying off the bond to buy the barrels, so we're paying twice. Now we're gonna pay for the bags that go in the barrels that we're paying for, and the barrels that we're paying for are supposed to, and the trash pickup is supposed to be funded by our taxes. So now we got the triple whammy, in addition to all the other increases, and in a city that can't afford it, but we have 4 councilors who are looking at a budget that is just on what-ifs, maybes, and if we get something. And the fact is, all these numbers are inaccurate, and the budget, as last year that we said it wasn't, it was full of holes. This one is the worst budget I've ever seen.
Dan?
Well, and we're getting an increase in sewer too, let's not forget about that.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Oh, yeah, don't forget that.
But the thing about the pay-as-you-throw that...
I said everything anyway.
Yeah,
so-
exactly. The thing that people are missing about the pay-as-you-throw is that waste management now has to fund itself solely through the fees generated by pay-as-you-throw and the recycling, which means truck maintenance, truck purchasing, bond payments, salaries, benefits, vacation time, sick time, all of that has to come solely out of that budget. Retirement packages, all have to come out
You
of that
think
budget.
that's gonna happen?
It has to. That's the law.
But it won't.
No way,
It has to.
they won't be able to fund it
But it
that way.
won't. How many DPW drivers now do solid waste? Then they also cut grass in certain places. They have other duties, and that's the problem.
Pothole repair?
That's the problem. When they do these other duties, and their salary is picked up by this by this pay-as-you-throw, it's technically illegal.
Exactly.
You can't pay them because unless they have a particular, as we said.
So it has to be a
this-
direct,
Yeah.
service to
Yeah.
solid waste.
They have to
Yes.
basically have an entity and people who are solely responsible for solid waste and only solid waste.
And I spoke to Ken Pacheco about that, and he said, we already have line items that separate highways and streets from waste management. But we already know that people work on both sides. At Christmas time, you get whoever you can to put up all the Christmas ornaments downtown. Granted, they're old and garbage, but they put them up. Okay? They're going around to neighborhoods right now putting up neighborhood banners. That's not always the highway department. So we have to really look at this and say, what are you doing? And the really big concern I have with this whole process is that this budget is based upon everyone in the city getting pay-as-you-throw. All right? I know I'm not getting pay-as-you-throw.
Well,
I
you're gonna-
privatized.
Yeah.
And the companies out there that are trying to privatize are offering rates lower than the city. And this is the same company that offered the city a rate to privatize.
Well, let's see, since we're on that, and it has to do with money and has to do with the budget, what does the city get from recycling? In other words, there's a separate bin, and recyclables go out. Does the city collect any money?
Yes, they collect a fee on all recyclables.
Okay, so what I'm getting at, and I think you're hinting about, is that if you have a dumpster out there, everything goes into the dumpster. So
That's right.
recyclables go in there too, and where do they end up?
Well, depending on
The city gets no credit for it.
right, and depending on which company you're using, because most of the companies now
But
do have,
what I'm getting at is the city gets no credit for
right,
it.
they get no money for it. So again, there's more money out of their budget that they're depending on. And they're saying, and again, Councilor Correa, the genius, and I'm not saying this to be personal, Mr. Councilor Correa, but he turned around and says, we have to put our faith in Waste Zero, which is the pay-as-you-throw company, because they've had over 20 years' experience doing this, and they know what we can get. But the problem is they've never dealt with a city like Fall River. And they don't tell us that the Worcester project has already failed miserably.
Well, Councilor Dan Rigo was very adamant about the fact that he won't vote for pay-as-you-throw. But then again, that's probably meaningless in a sense, because the mayor says, well, I'm going to implement it anyway. I don't need your approval. Councilor Rigo basically said that he spoke to people out in Worcester that he knows, and they say it's been a failure.
It's a
Bob,
disaster.
Is that,
Yeah, well, there was an article, and we actually had pictures of it. We had pictures of some of the streets and some of the debris on the Worcester streets. The Worcester City Council met to discuss it. It's a total failure.
what is the failure?
People aren't using it.
People aren't, people
don't-
won't buy, they're
they-
putting their trash out in vacant lots, they're throwing it in the streets, they're just, they're not gonna pay for the bags. I mean, you look at cities like this that have a very, very low income, and some people have virtually no income, they're not, they're gonna start throwing, and if they get fined, forget it. They'll
So
only
the
get fined once.
the absentee landlord,
Yeah.
so-called, who lives out in, Mr. Connecticut, and he owns 5 or 6 three-family homes in Fall River, who is going to be responsible if it's not packaged and put out the right way?
Well, they're going to find a tenant if they can identify him, and the owner. And the problem with that is, as CJ said, what's going to happen to these people who are absentee landlords is if they try this fine deal, they're going to privatize immediately.
Right.
Because why should they worry about getting fined? They'll save money, and they don't have to worry about the separation and everything else if they go to a private contractor. So the city's projections, as we said again, are flawed, because what's going to happen is there's going to be an evolution. People who have multiple families are going to end up gradually going to privatization, and they're gonna hire other companies, and again, there's gonna be a shortfall because they're overestimating their income, just as they overestimated how much they were gonna get from health care.
Boston, is this the Boston beer scenario all
Yes,
over again?
exactly.
Is this the $800,000 that, well, we thought we were going to be notified. Is that what that is?
That's, exactly.
Is this that ordinance they passed, and they had to pay $150,000 in legal fees?
Responsible employer, yeah.
This money adds up eventually.
Not according to the city law department.
Well, and you know, Richard, for all of that, there's other problems with this budget in the school department, the lack of planning for life after SAFER. These are all secondary issues why we got into the bind we're in.
Life after SAFER, what's happening there?
Well, what
Has
they,
that been settled as far as the
no,
number?
no, well, what they're doing is that our federal delegation sent a letter to the mayor and said, what was your plan when the SAFER went? And he had no plan. So the plan is very simple. We don't plan for anything. We have no plan, and our plan is, whenever we get in a hole, we raise fees and taxes, and what we're going to do ultimately is drive this city into receivership, and we're going to end up with people leaving the city. You know, anybody who can will.
Let's say the budget is not passed, and people are talking about it will go into, what, a 1/12 budget?
Correct.
And who oversees that? Is the city?
Same people that oversee the budget now.
Yep.
Okay, so, but they'll go from month to month. Does that go on for a long time, or?
3 months.
3 months.
3 months, and then what happens?
We go into receivership.
The state will come step in.
And some people say maybe that's a good idea.
I agree.
Get the state in and take a look at the books and clean up this mess, hopefully, for once
It
and for all.
worked in Central Falls. It worked in Chelsea. You know, when you have uncontrolled spending and fiscal irresponsibility that's going unchecked, like we have in this city, when we have councilors who don't care about the taxpayer, maybe this is exactly what you need, because the fact is, in Chelsea and in Central Falls, you know, they came in, the receiver came in, they looked, they got down to the nitty-gritty, they started earmarking money to go for essential services. They renegotiate. I mean, we don't even have to go into receivership. Just look a little way up the road to Providence. How did Angel Tavares straighten out Providence? He took a pay cut. He renegotiated contracts. Everybody had to bite the bullet a little bit. There was control on the purse strings. We cannot continue to run this city and have no regard about how much money we spend, and the answer is always raise taxes and fees.
Well,
we can't do it.
You know, there was a vote last night on the budget. It was a deadlock at 4-4.
4-4.
Linda Pereira was absent due to an illness. We wish her well and a speedy recovery, and hope that she gets back to the council quickly. But the bottom line is, I predict that tomorrow or before July 1, the budget will pass, because somebody that voted against it will flip. I do not believe that the council will allow the budget to go into a 1/12 status.
Okay, we're running down to the end of the program. Was that your prediction, Dan?
Absolutely.
Bob, what's your prediction?
My
On
prediction.
anything?
No. I predict receivership at some point within the next 5 years.
Oh, we've said that for
know.
years.
Okay.
But I believe this budget will pass. It'll be
CJ?
Mayoza or Camara that
You got a
flips.
prediction? Or you gonna-
Yeah, I'm predicting my phone's going to ring off the hook from Councilors Casey and Correa. And I also have a strong suspicion that there's going to be 10 taxpayers which will file suit against the city,
Based on what?
based upon the fact of a financial incompetence and the passing budgets.
You happen to be one?
Probably.
Okay. Make sure
There
you
could
get the
be- There
affidavit
could be a
straight.
few sitting here.
Yeah, it could be a few.
Okay, thank you out there for watching. Very exciting panel show, to say the least. Our panelists really know their business. They're out there all the time. They attend the meetings, they read the papers, radio, TV, etc., and on and on and on. So, if you have any questions, give them a call. As individuals, I'm sure they'll be very, very happy to talk to you. So, watch what happens. This is a drama that's playing out in the city of Fall River, and it may not be the likes of which you might never see again. Thank you out there for watching.